Hey guys, welcome back to another YouTube video. Today we are going to be talking about Percy Jackson. Again, shocker. Except today we are going to actually be talking about season 2 of Percy Jackson. And I know what you're probably thinking. What could we possibly talk about? There's not really any news out for season 2 yet. Except there is, kind of. A little bit. Today we're going to be talking about like what we know so far and when we can kind of expect things to happen based on the timeline for season 1. And we're going to kind of go over the timeline of like everything we have so far of season 2. So let's start out by looking at what the timeline for season 1 roughly sort of looked like. So in January of 2022, forever ago, season 1 for Percy Jackson was greenlit. A couple months later, in April of 2022, Walker was announced as Percy. And then just 1 month later after that, in May of 2022, they announced the full trio. So they announced Leah as Annabeth and Arian as Grover. Then in June of 2022, filming for the show began. And at this point, all we knew was who our trio was. We didn't really have any other news for any of the casting. And it wasn't until around October of 2022 where we got our next casting announcement, which I think was when they shared who Luke and Clarice were going to be, I'm pretty sure. And then sporadically between October of 2022 and January of 2023, we got all of our other castings. So we got Sally Jackson, Gabe, Zeus, Hades, Poseidon, etc., etc. So we got a lot of sporadic casting throughout the months of them filming. In February of 2023, filming wrapped for season 1. So it took them about 9 months to film all of season 1. And then in March of 2023, post-production for season 1 began. And then obviously, as you know, we got the show in December of 2023. So post-production was about 10 months. And so Rick has told us via his Threads account that we can sort of look at the rough timeline of season 1 and use that for season 2 because it's gonna be roughly the same. I think season 2 might work a little bit faster just because they don't have to cast as much and a lot of like sets are already built and all that stuff, but we'll get into that in a second. Here's what we know of the season 2 timeline so far. Surprisingly, in March of 2023, so a little over a year ago, Rick shared a blog post where he talked about the fact that they actually had a writer's room up and running for a potential season 2 for Percy Jackson. Obviously, season 2 hadn't been greenlit at that point in time, but they were hopeful, and so they kind of already had a writer's room getting together, and they had been approved to start developing some of the scripts. At this point, they had broken down the Sea of Monsters book into a series of episodes, so they've kind of already figured out what's going to happen in each episode, and they had begun outlining just like the very beginning parts of the first couple episodes. Then, unfortunately, May of 2023, the writer's strike began, and that lasted until September of 2023. So while the WGA was on strike, Rick and the other writers were not able to work on the potential season 2 of the show. Rick shared a blog post in October after the strike had ended, talking about how now, since the strike is over, they are free to get back into the writer's room, but it's going to take a while for like the industry to get the wheels turning again. So I don't think they went back into the writer's room, honestly, for season 2 until it got renewed in February. It kind of sucks because it's so crazy to think about how far they would be into season 2 if the writer's strike did not happen and like they were able to spend all those months working on the show. Obviously, the writer's strike was important for it to happen because writers need their benefits and whatnot. It's just a crazy what if to think about. Like, I think the scripts would be pretty much almost done if they were able to work on it all that time. However, that is not the timeline we live in. We live in this timeline. So then in February of 2024, season 2 for Percy Jackson got renewed about a week after season 1 finished. And the very next day after the show got renewed, Rick shared that they had a very productive day back in the writer's room for the first time since the strike. He said that it's very beneficial that they're not starting out on ground zero and that the scripts that they have so far from when they were last in the writer's room are in really great shape. Also in February of 2024, Rick told us the casting for season 2 has not started yet. And I think at this point, at the time I'm filming this, it's April 3rd. I think at this point, they still haven't done any casting for season 2. And so here's a whole bunch of stuff that we know so far about season 2 in general, like what they need to do or what they've said. In terms of the casting not starting yet, that might sound like a little scary thing, but really they don't have to do that much casting if you think about it. Even if they do find themselves having to do a lot of casting for season 2, it's not as daunting as having to cast like the trio for the show and having to cast Luke and having to cast like the core characters of the show. Most of the people they have to cast in season 2 I think are more B tier characters, and I mean that with no like ill intent because I do love the characters that they have to cast for season 2 still. So the characters that they need to cast, obviously Tyson. He's a big one, and I'm really excited to see who they end up casting for him. But I'm more excited to see how they do his one eye, because as we all know, the movie did not do a good job. They have to cast Thalia. I think that one's going to be really interesting, and I think that one's going to be very tricky, but I think they'll do a really good job at it, obviously. They have to cast Selena Beauregard, Charles Beckendorf, Tantalus, Cersei, Travis and Connor Stoll, the Grey sisters, which are like the 3 people with like the one eye. They're probably going to have to cast some sirens. I'm not sure how they're going to go about Polyphemus, if that's how you even say it. I'm so sorry. I probably butchered it, but whatever. I feel like they'll probably get somebody to do the voice for it and do like a CGI giant ogre cyclops thing, but we'll see, obviously. And I'm sure there's a bunch of other people that they have to cast, but those are just the ones that I can think of like off the top of my head. Other stuff that we know that they already have Camp Half-Blood built on like private land. Like they have the cabins, and all the practical sets that they built for season 1 are still there. So a lot of the production design is already kind of up and ready to go. So the process of all of that should be a lot smoother. We do know that Reyna from the Heroes of Olympus series will be in season 2 in the way that Nico is in season 1, where you know she's back there somewhere, but you won't actually see her because it's like way too early to cast her. Rick tells us that the production of season 2 so far feels a lot smoother and easier than the production of season 1 because it's not their first year doing this anymore. They're a little bit more experienced at it, and it's going a little bit faster. We know that Bear McCreary is coming back to score season 2, which is good. I really liked the music in season 1. We know that Joe Trax, who wrote episode 4 and episode 6, is not coming back for season 2. As of March 22nd, 2024, Rick told us that things are moving really well and they're on schedule with developing the scripts for season 2, which is really good news. Also, as of March, Rick told us that any casting news is still months away. Also, according to Becky, they're unsure if Percy Jackson is going to be at D23 this year, which is August 9th through 11th of 2024. Which kind of sucks to hear because 2 years ago at D23, it was like in September of 2022, that's where we got our first footage of Percy Jackson. It would have been really cool to get like our first footage of season 2 or our first look at season 2 at D23, but August is like a much quicker turnaround than September. So it makes sense for them to not have any season 2 footage or photos to show us at D23, but they could still like have a panel, I think, and they could still answer questions or have the cast there or something. But they didn't say they're not going. They just said they're unsure if Percy Jackson will like have a panel. So with all of that info, this is sort of the rough timeline that I'm thinking we have for season 2 of Percy Jackson. So right now it's April. I'm thinking around May, maybe June of 2024, we might get our first casting announcement. I'm not expecting too much from those months. I'm thinking it's possible that maybe we'll get the news of who's playing Tyson, but that's about it. If they even give us any casting news before they start filming. They might not do that. Because like I said, for season 1, the only casting announcements that we got before they started filming were our trio. We didn't even know about who was playing the gods or who was playing any other Camp Half-Blood members, so it's hard to say if we'll get any casting announcements before they start filming. But seemingly, since they're on schedule for the scripts and everything is flowing a lot smoother and a lot faster, I think it's very possible that they can get into filming anywhere between May of 2024 to July of 2024, which I know that's like a huge space of months. It's really hard to gauge, but I'm expecting around June or July of 2024, they'll be like, okay, we've started filming season 2. It's funny because the timeline of season 2 actually follows the timeline of season 1, like by the months, pretty identically. So I'm thinking around October, we'll start to get casting announcements. Like we'll be like, this person's playing Selena, this person's playing Charles, you know. I think we'll get those as they start filming. And I'm hoping around February/March of 2025, filming will start to wrap, which I know sounds so far away. And maybe they won't have to take as long to film season 2 as they did to film season 1. Fingers crossed. But I don't know too much about like TV show productions and how difficult it is to film stuff on water, because that's like where most of Sea of Monsters takes place. They're like on a boat. So it's hard to say if that'll take longer or shorter to film. But so if we're looking at a February/March of 2025 filming wrap, then we're looking at March/April of 2025 for post-production to begin. And that would land us around December of 2025 or January of 2026 when season 2 drops, which sounds so insanely far away. But also, I remember making videos for season 1 being like, oh my gosh, December of 2023 feels so far away, and it came like that. Hopefully my timeline is giving them like a lot of breathing room that they don't really need. Maybe we'll get the show a little bit earlier than December of 2025. I have no idea, honestly, but if I had to guess, that would be like my rough timeline for season 2. Basically right now, all it is a waiting game. Kind of like how it was when we were waiting for season 1 to come out. We're living on crumbs. If you've been here for a while and you've been watching my videos for a while, you know how basically every season 1 update video that I talked about how we're basically just living off of crumbs at this point, and we're right back to doing that. Really, any news that we could get in the upcoming months will probably be coming directly from Rick or Becky, and I do hope they continue to update us as much as they can, because I feel like if they fall like really silent during pre-production, then the fans don't really have as much to talk about, and that can kind of be damaging to a fan base. Not saying that like the Percy Jackson fan base will die out because we don't have any news or updates. I just think that giving us updates, even if they're small, will be giving us something to constantly look forward to. Because like right now, one of the most popular things, at least on Percy Jackson Twitter, is just discussing fan casts for upcoming roles in season 2. Some of the popular ones I've seen are Ariana Greenblatt as Selena Beauregard and this guy named Brandon Severs as Charles. I saw one person say Gaten Matarazzo as Tyson for their fan cast for Tyson, and this may just be my Stranger Things fan bias talking, but I actually really do love that fan cast. I don't think Gaten would do it just because Stranger Things is finally ending and he's 21 and he probably doesn't want to do another TV show, plus the filming of Stranger Things 5 will like be happening hopefully at the same time as filming for season 2 of Percy Jackson, so I don't think he would ever do it, but I like that idea. That's all I'll say. I know the trio was doing a lot of interviews on like Percy Jackson podcasts for the past couple of months, which have been great, but those have seemingly like slowed down or stopped completely, which is probably mostly because Leah, Arian, and Walker all go to public school, so they're busy, like they're in the middle of their school year right now. And there's only so much you can talk about when it comes to talking about Percy Jackson until you're just talking about the same thing over and over again. And I know Charlie, the guy who plays Luke, has also been doing a couple of interviews with podcasters. A lot of Percy Jackson podcasts have been interviewing cast members and crew members, actually. So if that interests you, make sure you check out some of those podcasts. A couple of ones that I can think of off the top of my head: there's the Seaweed Brain podcast, there's Monster Donut, a Percy Jackson podcast, and the newest Olympian. Those are just a couple that I can think of off the top of my head. I'm sure there's plenty more out there. Basically, at this point, it's just fingers crossed that we get another update from Rick soon about the process, about how the writer's room is going and whatnot. Even though our last update was technically on March 22nd, I want another one. But that honestly about does it for this video. I just wanted to get like my quick thoughts out there about season 2 and what I think the rough timeline is going to be for it. Obviously, I will update you guys as we get more news. We're kind of living off of nothing here right now, but sooner than later, we will start to get more and more information as they get closer to filming season 2. Let me know when you guys think season 2 will start to film down in the comments below. I'm curious to see if you guys agree with my timeline, or if you think I'm giving them way too much time, or if you think I'm not giving them enough time. Let me know. If you're new here, make sure you check out all my other Percy Jackson videos because there are a lot of them. I also have a lot of videos that aren't Percy Jackson related as well. Make sure you follow me on all my other social medias, and also make sure you check out my Patreon. I am releasing my full episode reactions to Percy Jackson over there, as well as doing commentary tracks for the show, probably going to be doing commentary tracks for the movie, and a whole bunch of other content over there that's not Percy Jackson related. Because, contrary to popular belief, Percy Jackson is not the only thing I talk about. I swear. There's about 40 different interests going on behind me if you look at my background. But that about does it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye.